Thanks for joining me for week 10 of our devotional reading of the Gospel of John. My name is Eric. Now, our full text for this week was chapters 19 through 20. The passage we'll slow down in a bit today is chapter 20, verses 24 through 29. Now, remember, our deepest need is to see more of Jesus and for the Holy Spirit to interact with our hearts in that process, shaping us and growing our love for Him. That's our goal. That's our biggest goal. So consider right now asking the Spirit to help you notice in the text we are about to read what He is communicating to you about Jesus. We want to make sure we see that. And we need help. Now, to help us sit with the text a bit today, I'm going to provide a bit more of a guided reflection. We're going to read the text in some short sections. I'll ask a question or two for you to consider after each that may provide some content as a springboard for a conversation you may want to have with God on your own. Now, our passage today immediately follows Jesus appearing to His fearful disciples. They're locked behind closed doors, and He appears to them after He rose from the dead. And then in verse 24, this is what we read. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told Him, "We have seen the Lord." But He said to them, "Unless I see in His hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into His side, I will never believe." Why do you think Thomas was so adamant that his fellow disciples were lying to him and that surely Jesus had not risen from the dead? I mean, after all, this is Thomas, who spent several years with Jesus, seeing firsthand His power over sickness and death and nature. This is the same Thomas who, back at the end of chapter 11, encouraged his fellow disciples to follow Jesus back into Judea, to the place where Lazarus has died, even though he assumed that would mean certain death for them all. So why this disbelief in Thomas now? Was the resurrection of Jesus just too fantastical? Was it too hard to believe? What about you? Can you relate to Thomas at all here? Are there things about Jesus you have been told are true or you've read are true, but yet you struggle to believe? Consider pausing this podcast to give you a few moments to name any doubt about Jesus that may be bubbling up. Don't be fearful to name it. God knows you entirely already. Let's be honest about what we notice is in our hearts. All right, let's read on. Verse 26. 8 days later, His disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then He said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." For 8 days, Thomas struggled with disbelief. Yet this did not disqualify him from the love and grace of Jesus. Rather, Jesus literally met him right where he was, again in another locked room, and even graciously offered to Thomas the very proof he said he must have in order to believe. My friend, do you tend to resist or receive the grace of Jesus, even with whatever doubt or disbelief that may be bubbling up in your heart? Do you tend to resist or receive the loving patience of Jesus with you, the gracious initiation of His coming to you, speaking to you, and meeting you right where you are? If you are a follower of Jesus, this is how Jesus interacts with you too. Take a few moments to consider how this same Jesus may be interacting with your heart right now, especially in the places where you may sense doubt or disbelief. You have nothing to fear. consider pausing this podcast for a few moments and offering him those places. Let's finish our text for today, beginning in verse 28. Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen me and yet have believed." Thomas responded with belief to the gracious, patient, loving initiation of Jesus in addressing Thomas's doubts about his resurrection. Like, if only we had such tangible proof as Thomas had, right? And yet, Jesus responds with a blessing for us who believe yet have not seen Jesus' resurrected body. So if you are a follower of Jesus today, this is a blessing for you. So how is this full text sitting with you? What is Jesus like according to his interactions that we see here with Thomas? Spend some unhurried time now, having a conversation with Jesus about whatever is rising to the surface. Do so in the full assurance that the Jesus depicted here in this text with Thomas is the same Jesus you now get to interact with.